What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we've already seen a bunch of different accessories announced for the Switch 2, which of course works to just advertise that company in general since so many people are interested in this device. But we have another one that's now shown up that people are looking at their announcement as being sort of confirmation for a certain feature for the Switch 2, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about that massive Xbox Developer Direct that happened yesterday with a bunch of game release date announcements as well as two big-time surprises. And then we also have more information around that Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy as it's looking to wrap up with its third entry, and they answered a question of, will you need a PlayStation 6 to play that final entry? We'll take a look. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button down below. And we're going to start today with Assassin's Creed Shadows, as previews went live yesterday, as well as a ton of footage. Some people were even live streaming, I guess, their playthrough of the game. And what ended up happening was some, I think, went out to location to play. Others, like myself, just played remotely through the cloud, and it worked well enough. It looked way better when I got the natively recorded footage that they sent over than viewing it through the cloud, of course. But still, I got a general idea in my roughly 3-hour play session, with some of the beginning being like the prologue and just the opening story for both characters, down to jumping forward in the game and playing a bunch in a different mission, again, halfway through or so. And some of my biggest takeaways here so far, to me, has a lot to do with just the open world itself and how it feels very dynamic and alive. There are some clips that I put up on Twitter, just kind of showing me running through parts and how everything sort of had its own ability to move and shift, and you see trees and leaves and grass stuff. But even down to the combat, Naoe and Yasuke feel very, very different, where Yasuke is more of a tank with a ton of health, and Naoe, you don't want to get hit much as her, because it was pretty easy to die without being a bit careful there. But she has some pretty good moves in terms of parkour and being very agile, and of course, the stealth aspect. She plays like a full-on assassin when it's time to actually sneak into an area and take somebody down. So for the most part, again, in my limited play, I'd say after the prologue, about 2 hours, it was fun. I need to see more, though. The progression around the characters, actually exploring large chunks of the map and other things. So there's still a lot there in terms of question marks, but I liked what I played. I'd say check out more of the gameplay, since there are just like 2-hour blocks of people playing this thing if you were interested to find out more about it. Also, we did get an announcement for more Super Nintendo games going into NSO. We can see this posted up. This is over on Nintendo of America's official account. 3 Super NES Classic titles are now live for Nintendo Switch Online members. Let's see, we have Fatal Fury 2, Super Ninja Boy, and Sute Hakun. I have not played actually, Fatal Fury 2, I think, is the only one I played on this list, and it's just kind of in the Fatal Fury franchise there anyway. But Super Ninja Boy, they were showing it off, and it looked like a kind of an interesting, I don't want to say RP, like turn-based RPG, because when you went into the overworld, then you went to the actual fight itself, it looked like it was kind of like action-based there. And then Sute Akun looks kind of like a puzzle-style game that I double-checked. It seemed to get an English translation not too long ago. So, I mean, they're new games to the Super Nintendo. They're not any games, I think, that are going to jump out to everybody, but hey, it's more content for that library of titles, and I still feel like a lot of people now, because Nintendo shut off the Switch 2, looking towards that to find out more about it, more games and stuff. But while we see this, I think we also have a few more, we'll say, Switch announcements coming up pretty soon. Oh, and I wanted to point this out, as I know that there are some fans of this series making its return, and that's Tokyo Extreme Racer, because it did launch on Steam yesterday, and check it out. It's actually up there with overwhelmingly positive. People seem really happy with what they're getting right now. Keep in mind, this is early access. They're very upfront about it. It's $30, and it seems like something they'll be working to continue improving over time. But fans of the franchise from back on the PS2, I mean, it's been more than 15 years easily since the last one, I guess. Them coming back with this, though, people seem thrilled. So I just wanted to point that out. It is out now in case you maybe forgot about it or were just trying to keep tabs on it. It's available on Steam. We'll see if maybe they make the jump to consoles and stuff down the road as they exit early access. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a Switch 2 feature that many people believe is confirmed at this time, mostly due to an advertisement and then announcement by Lexar, who does SD cards and other storage medium and stuff. You may have one right now in your current Switch or your Steam Deck or your phone, but in this case, a lot of people are looking towards micro SD express cards because that is believed at this time as to what the Switch 2 will use for faster data transfer in order to cut down on load times and I guess even file transfers, because we're still trying to figure out if games will have to install to the SD. That's sort of come up now. People are wondering if, in order to accommodate for faster load times that the game expects, maybe the game card can't read fast enough. We still need to learn a lot about this system, but people, of course, being concerned that game file sizes are going up. How much will these express SD cards end up costing? I think you're getting flashbacks of when the Switch came out and the 400 gigabyte micro SD card was somewhere in the neighborhood of $250. It was wild stuff back then. We've come a long way. But let's take a look. This at first was posted up over on Famaboards, and they were pointing to Lexar, who made this announcement on the website, where it actually shows that, well, okay, it has the Switch 2 there, and they even say the Switch 2 is really coming, which we know that Nintendo at this time has announced it, shown the device off, and they say waiting for a memory card that is super equipped with it, and this is all through Google Translate, if you couldn't tell by now. I do like the idea of wanting to download a 3A game in less than 10 minutes, which would be relied mostly on your internet speed, and 3A versus AAA. Yeah, I don't mind 3A. I think that sounds a bit better, but still though, this being a 1 terabyte micro SD express card means that we are well ahead of schedule compared to where we were when the Switch came out in 2017, where the 1 terabyte micro SD card was a pipe dream. Not only just existing really for the mass consumers, but even be able to afford it. We don't know the price of this one yet, though. That's the only thing. So they do show off the transfer speeds, writing speeds, 600 megabytes per second, 900 megabytes per second in terms of read speed. So it is quite fast. Again, that's kind of necessary for them trying to eliminate load times. They have to get a bit faster than the current SD cards. Great. Now, for people wondering, okay, well, how much could this be? Well, we do have some examples at this time. We know that the micro SD express cards, for example, we have like access to 512 gigabyte card, that being, I think, the largest one is available by SanDisk. That's coming in at $80. Now, it's not cheap. But again, compared to where we were in 2017 versus now, that feels like it's inexpensive then, just seeing where we were at that time. Now, not compared to SD cards in general that you can buy for your Switch, but keep in mind, this is we think 4 to 5 months before the Switch 2 even comes out. So then fast forward towards the end of this year with things like Cyber Monday, Black Friday, when we see storage mediums and stuff get significantly discounted. I think probably by the end of this year, we'll have these express SD cards, 256 gigabyte, probably in the $30 range somewhere, and then up from there, 512 and even 1 terabyte, maybe being pretty cheap. But I would say the 1 terabyte probably coming in, I'd say closer to like $150 to $200 at launch. Now, at this time, Lexar is saying that the 1 terabyte express will be launching mid-February, so we're about a month off. We'll find out then exactly how much it costs. Though, here's the thing, it's not officially confirmed by Nintendo. I wouldn't recommend going out and buying a micro SD express card yet, but keep that in mind, in the back of your mind. Okay, if I want to upgrade storage, express, not the current SD cards. We'll have to keep an eye on these, and of course, as more companies show up, and we have sort of a bidding war in terms of pricing to try to attract the consumer, and which hopefully means lower prices for us. Next up, let's talk about that Xbox Developer Direct, because Microsoft came out in force yesterday. This was a really good show. Now, I do want to preface this by saying, yes, the PlayStation 5 logo was all over this showcase, but I think people need to remember just the way Microsoft's going about this. They just want to sell a ton of software because they know that's where the money is made. And I guess in their mind, the less hardware they have to make is also kind of less cost. So yes, you're going to see a lot of these games also going to PlayStation 5 and in fact advertised by Microsoft in their own Xbox Developer Direct. That out of the way though, let's start from the top here. The showcase was like 50 minutes or so, and they did spend quite a bit of time going to each studio and just letting the developers talk about their game. So in a way, you did kind of get to know some of the people behind this game. Now, it was kind of jumping around quite a bit. And in some cases, you would see 10 people just kind of talking about their roles there and stuff. So I'm sure some of them are going to kind of blend together or even forget some of them. But still, it was pretty cool just to see the inner workings of these studios as they were trying to develop these different titles, especially when you're hanging out to kick off the show and they decided to open with the surprise game or surprise games. And once that started and you kind of saw the waves and the storm and the rain, I said, hold on a minute, that looks like Team Ninja. And in fact, it was, because, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have just one, not two, but 3 Ninja Gaiden games coming out this year. I said 3 because we have Ragebound, which is the 2D Ninja Gaiden game, but still, 2 Ninja Gaiden games were announced. Let's start though with Ninja Gaiden 4. Now, this is a collaboration between Platinum Games, Team Ninja, and then Microsoft is publishing this. So years ago, when we did hear about Phil Spencer technically going to Japan, it was going to take a while, but it seems like that's paid off, and maybe that's where, I guess this is where that did come from. So good to see at least Platinum Games on, I think, a project that suits them very, very well, and we really haven't seen them make a game that hit really well that's not a type of game like Ninja Gaiden, but hey, if you know what you're doing with it, keep doing those types of games, and this game looks awesome. They have another protagonist in there, but of course, towards the end, they did say Ryu Hayabusa, and boom, there he is cutting everyone up and fighting seemingly with the other protagonist. So I'm curious what the story is there. It has been almost 13 years since Ninja Gaiden 3. It's been a bit. But here's the good news. We don't have to wait too much longer because this is launching fall 2025. So, it's good to see the game and then hear that it's coming out in less than a year. In fact, we could say like 8 months away from this. Exciting stuff there. And then they weren't done because they wanted to give us something we could play right now. Ninja Gaiden 2 being remade in Unreal Engine 5 titled Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. It's available now. It has PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and it's in Game Pass day 1, which I should also mention Ninja Gaiden 4 also going into Game Pass. These are 2 big Game Pass gets for Microsoft, and it's good to see that because that's the big thing they do. Yes, they have first-party stuff that we'll talk about here soon, but be able to make these kind of deals and get third parties involved, and at times maybe even just funding a project outright like this or 2 projects, that's awesome. So Unreal Engine 5, I did check it out on Xbox, played about an hour and a half so far, and man, it's fun. It is. I liked Ninja Gaiden 2 quite a bit on the Xbox 360 back in the day when it came out. If I remember right, that was one of the few games back then that I specifically remember you could play music tracks over the game itself, but it already looked incredible there. Looks really good here. If you have it on PC, I double checked. Ultra wide monitor support. I posted up a screenshot over on Twitter if you want to take a look, and it's great. It's great. Ray tracing, the whole deal. So I recommend picking that one up. No physical copy that I saw at this time. I believe PlayAsia has like an exclusivity on that or something. They had that posted, and it was like $50 if you want to pick it up, I think on the PS5. So at this time, though, it is available Game Pass, or you can buy it digitally and start playing right away. Moving from there, we did have South of Midnight, which I will say, the Ninja Gaiden 4, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black reveals didn't really help out South of Midnight much. Like, not a great act to have to follow up there, but still, I do think the game looks very intriguing. I would say out of all the games here, that was probably the one I'm least interested in, but still the main character is named Hazel, is a weaver, and the world kind of shifts around you as you play. So you can see after you clear a certain area, all the flowers bloom and kind of the nature and stuff changes, the world around. And that's a really cool effect. Your character that you're playing as looks very, very agile. The traversal, I think, looks great. The art style looks good. The low frame rate thing, though, to try to mimic stop motion, it keeps throwing me off when I see it. I get the style they're going for here. it looked weird in the trailer. Maybe when you have it in front of you natively, as we see with many of these different games, it will look better. But still, I like the art style. I like at least the direction here for Compulsion, and it's going to Game Pass, so naturally, yes, I'll be checking this one out. And it is launching April 8th, 2025. Now we then transition from that to Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which, whew, after they showed it here, one of my most anticipated games of the year, which, again, the year is already kind of getting set up here for Microsoft, which, that's pretty big then for them to set this year up like this, because I think there's still much, much more we have not seen from them. But heavy, heavy Lost Odyssey vibes here, guys. I'm telling you, this just kind of the camera angles, even the combat, reactive turn-based combat, it just screams Lost Odyssey influence everywhere. There's also a big overworld map. There's tons of passive abilities and character progression everywhere, and the story itself is pretty interesting. So the way to describe it is you have this big number, basically it's posted in the middle of the world almost, and it ticks down once a year. And so when it goes from 34 to 33, everyone who was 34 just disappears. So it keeps ticking down and down and down, and eventually I guess it'll get to 0 and then no one will exist. So in this case, you're going on Expedition 33 to try to solve the problem. It's launching April 24th, 2025, another game going directly into Game Pass. And then they closed out with the big one, Doom: The Dark Ages, which, I mean, just looks incredible. Visually speaking, yes, but everything else around this, the world, the combat, big push for tank-based approach for, like, to the different enemies. You have a shield that blocks, parries, throws it like Captain America, except it's got spikes and everything. It's chopping people up and stuff. You have big flail, these other medieval weapons that are just crushing enemies into pieces. And then they go, hold on a minute. How about huge mech combat? It's like Pacific Rim looking stuff here. And then on top of that, it sort of leans into the idea of it being a big sandbox. So you do still go around. You have a lot of exploration. You find a lot of items and power-ups and additional passive abilities and weapons. And the whole time, the heavy metal Doom music is playing. Awesome, awesome stuff here for the Doom: The Dark Ages. It is coming out May 15th. So again, we kind of see April getting set up. We get a Ninja Gaiden game drop today. Later on in the fall, we'll have another one with Ninja Gaiden 4. So 2 April games, we have May, and then again, I think you're going to see things like Oblivion Remake happen in June. There's discussion that Playground could show up with something. This is quite the year. But I will say with Doom: The Dark Ages, one disappointing factor here, no multiplayer, and I don't know, we had like Doom 2016 and stuff. Like the multiplayer back with Doom had always been really fun. Eternal was a little weird from what I remember. I wouldn't have minded them to just go back to just straight arena shooter style with Doom: The Dark Ages, with some of the different weapon types and stuff they've introduced, maybe even abilities. But just, they don't have to overthink the multiplayer, and if they end up doing maybe just a spin-off of Doom, a side project, and it's all multiplayer, just go straight up arena shooter and just do what Doom does best with destruction. But I've got to say, Xbox did very good here. This was a good direct to sort of set up the year because, as I mentioned, I think they still have quite a bit, and it seems almost like not only is Microsoft getting to that point of one big game a quarter for Game Pass, I think we're going to see many quarters where there's like 2 good games, 3 good games, and all of a sudden, when they mention having to delay Avowed, right, last year into February now, so another one to throw up there, because they had too many games, it's kind of like, okay, well, hold on, because 2025, starting to kind of get that same sort of setup and vibe here. But hey, good stuff here from the Xbox Direct. Looking forward to a bunch of games, Clair Obscur, Doom: The Dark Ages, Ninja Gaiden 4, Ninja Gaiden right now, so awesome stuff. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake, the trilogy, since, well, we're on the 3rd entry now, and that should wrap up a story that's taking, we'll say, some twists and turns, to put it mildly. But some are wondering, hold on a minute, is this trilogy going to wrap up on the PlayStation 5, or will I need a next generation PlayStation 6 to play the last entry? Well, we can see this posted up. This is over on VGC citing 4Gamer, as the series producer did sit down with them, and they were asked, for those who have played Final Fantasy VII Remake on PS4 and Rebirth on PS5, I think there may be some concern that the third work will be for the next generation console. So if you look at it, yes, Remake on the PS4, Rebirth on the PS5 specifically. While Remake did get moved to the PS5, Rebirth did not go backwards to the PS4. Now, in this case, the producer laughed and said, no, you can rest assured about the next one. right after Rebirth ended in March or April 2024, so we've been developing it for about 9 months already. So yes, it does seem like the last game in the trilogy will indeed release on the PlayStation 5, but I'm sure it'll get a re-release on the PlayStation 6 because Square likes to do that a lot, and I wouldn't be shocked if they even did something where they have the entire trilogy in one box set, they re-release that again. On the PlayStation 7, no, but they'll definitely re-release it multiple times, and there'll be, I'm sure, expanded content for it. They are going to get as much money as they can out of this remake trilogy as possible. But good news is, if it's coming out on the PS5, I'm thinking 2027 or early 2028, but it wouldn't shock me if they do indeed get it out in time for holiday 2027, so we'll see how they do. And before we go to the comment of the day, take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, which is Game of the Year Madness. We are now up to day 27, with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth clearing Stellar Blade pretty easily. You would sort of expect that from Rebirth, since many outlets had it as their Game of the Year, their big Game of the Year nominee. Even at the Game Awards, was probably one of the front runners, and if Astrobot wasn't there, I feel like Rebirth may be taking it then, but still makes sense here, just kind of based on the way that the bracket is shaking out now, since we're coming down to the final 4, and on one side you have Astrobot, on the other side you have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I'm kind of wondering if that's going to be the final matchup, but who knows, I guess an upset could happen along the way. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Glitches, who says, I've been watching you for like 7 years and I still can't understand how you film these in like one take. It just shows how passionate you are about gaming. I definitely don't do these in one take. Evan has gotten very good at editing over years now, and it can make me look a lot better than I am in some sections. So there are times where you don't see it and I'm just like jumping up and like annoyed that I misspoke or cut off somewhere or something. So it comes together nicely though at the end, doesn't it? When you export and it's like 20 minutes from 35 minutes of raw footage or something. So again, Evan does a very good job with it, and hey, maybe one day I'll just do one solid take, no pauses at all, but I wouldn't count on that anytime soon. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you want to tune into Direct Xbox that'll be happening later on tonight. I'll actually leave the link up for the live stream that I'll have scheduled, and you can check that out later, as of course we'll be talking about all this stuff with the Xbox Developer Direct. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.